Hey folks, so today I picked up a rumour about something as a Fujifilm camera that people have been, I think, wanting for some time, and it's the X-Pro4, or it might be apparently the X-Pro5. So currently we've got the X-Pro3 camera out, and I shall bring a picture of it up here. If you watched my last video, we did talk a little bit about the X-Pro3, and it might be worth going into a little bit of detail about that camera in a moment. But first, one quick thing I want to get out of the way. Thank you very much. We are now over 1,000 subscribers. So thanks to all who subscribed and watched and support the channel. Onwards and upwards, as I say, but it's quite a big milestone. So big thank you to all you guys who support me. Anyway, let's get on with what I want to talk about, which is this rumour that a lot of people have been wanting an X-Pro. Now, the X-Pro series is kind of related to, in some respects, to the X100 series. The difference being the X100 has a fixed lens, but they both sport the hybrid viewfinder, which is a combination of an optical viewfinder. It can operate as an optical and electronic viewfinder together, and it can operate as an electronic viewfinder. Now, apparently in the new X-Pro 4 or 5, whatever it's going to be called, they are going to improve this. Let's speculate why later in the video. But let's have a quick overview of what is the X-Pro 3. Well, if you look up a camera called the X100V or VI, the 6, you'll see it's a rangefinder style camera, and essentially the X100 series, I think one maybe inspired the other. I'm not sure which came first. I do believe the X100 was released before the X-Pro range. I'd have to look into the history of that. If I do look into the history, I'll see if I can pop up on the screen now the cameras and their release year. And let's see if it was, because I believe the first X100 series camera came out in 2012. But X-Pro 3, so it's got a flip down screen, and when the screen flips up it closes completely. All you get on the back is that little LCD screen which displays the current film simulation or some very basic information about the camera. And this camera is all about getting back to the raw, like as I say, I've got my trusty film camera here. It's getting back to using a film camera with an optical viewfinder, but not quite like an SLR, because a rangefinder wasn't like an SLR. Rangefinders have an optical viewfinder that sort of looks out to the side of the lens. And this is where I wonder whether the enhancements they talked about would come in, because I'll come into some of the restrictions of that in a moment. But essentially, we talked the hybrid viewfinder is able to operate as an optical viewfinder, where a sort of a screen pops up and it then can have like an LCD in the viewfinder, just like a normal camera. Equally, it can have a little tiny digital viewfinder, OVD, optical, EVF, electronic viewfinder. Getting all my acronyms mixed up. And it's like probably makes up like 10% of the corner. It's a tiny little window. I can't really describe what it is. If I can get a picture, I will bring one up. But it's basically, you imagine looking through an optical viewfinder, and this little tiny, there's a heads-up display overlaid on it, so you can roughly frame your image. And then the little EVF is like a tiny little corner at the bottom right of the screen of the viewfinder area that gives you a representation of the actual exposure. But you get quite a lot of data on the heads-up display, which is quite presented on top of the optical display. Now, enhancing it makes me wonder if they've worked out a way to give a true heads-up display, like a more like holographic display or something. That would be really interesting, because you could have your electronic viewfinder mode, you could have your optical mode, and then you could have some sort of hybrid mode where And they can do it because my car has a projected heads-up display, which is like a graphical display, which is projected using reflections. And I wonder if they could do something like that. Because you see, we're moving on to the problem with optical viewfinders. They can't really show you what the field of view is very well. So imagine we've got an SLR, this is an SLR. This has got a prime lens on, but if you put a zoom lens on, the whole idea behind the single lens reflex camera was that you would zoom in and you would see through the camera lens exactly what you were going to take a picture of, the framing and everything, because the optics were bounced off the mirror in the camera up to the prism, which did some prism jiggery pokery and presented the image through the viewfinder to your eye. Now, an optical viewfinder on a rangefinder is kind of off to one side, and they were often used on cameras that were fixed focal length because they could be designed to work with that focal length. So I would love you guys to also speculate as to what kind of technology they could put into an optical viewfinder. If you look through the optical viewfinder, you get a box that goes around the frame like this. I'm drawing the box, and I'll see if I'm going to picture the box. And that box would kind of move around, and it would attempt to scale to show what you're zooming in on. And it worked all right on a fixed lens camera, but I haven't used an X-Pro series. I've always been intrigued by them because I love the rangefinder style. And I don't think I'd really want them to change much on the camera. I suspect I'd want it to have, again, the 26 megapixel sensor that comes in the XH2S. And I don't think Fuji are going to put a new sensor in. But if I'm honest, I would love to see them bring a 30 megapixel sensor out to put in it. Something that's in between the 40 and the 26. Kind of a sweet spot for street photography. But it is the ultimate street photographer's camera. Easy-ish to pocket because of its square size. Obviously, you don't have the an SLR was this shape because the prism is in here. Technically, modern DSLRs don't have a prism, so probably don't need to be that shape these days. They just are, because they have been. And I would probably go for the silver one. I think there was a graphite one as a special edition. But I think it's going to be a really interesting camera to own. I have a feeling it's probably going to cost around about, probably best part, £1,800 to £2,000. Cameras these days are not cheap. But I certainly think it's been the most asked about camera. But yeah, I think the biggest change would be incremental update to the camera itself, because it was a pretty good camera, maybe a better screen on it, although the screen of that camera isn't so important because it's all about the viewfinder. And if they could make a way to make that viewfinder work in an analog way, with what the camera sees, imagine they could fit like a sideways prism into it, so it looked like a rangefinder, but it worked like an SLR, but it would have to have a mirror. So, I don't know. Or maybe to find a way to reflect the electronic view through the optical viewfinder, but then would that be cheating? How do you think they would do it? Because this is the intriguing nugget of information we've got about the camera. No idea about release date, although I think when I read about it earlier in the year, they're talking about next year for the camera. I think all the Fuji cameras are being announced. We've got the X-T50 and we've got the up-and-coming, we talked about, the XM5, which has not been announced yet, but it's touted to be coming out. And I thought it would have, this camera was just on the rumour of cameras would just be a good thing to talk about for something that I've, to celebrate how getting 1,000 subscribers. Because it's quite an achievement, I think. And it's thanks to you guys. And I've been rather busy with housey movie things and trying to sort things out. But I've literally just been setting up the studio again here because I had to dismantle it. Because I'm having to pack more and more things away. It's getting harder and harder to do these videos. But I digress. We managed to get this one out. And sorry, it's not going to be a mega in-depth one. But just when I saw that rumour, I thought it was worth talking about this camera. Because of all the Fuji cameras I probably have never owned, I love the X100V, but I used it just to sell it to pay for my X-T5. And I love my X-T5, it's been absolutely hammered. I've had it 18 months and I've taken north of 30,000 pictures on it, 35. Not a lot on a modern camera, but it's a lot when you think about a lot of the cameras you see for sale are usually only a few thousand shots. So, yeah, what do you think the optical viewfinder will have? I'm really trying to get my head around it. I think that's the key upgrade is going to be that. I think the electronic viewfinder is likely to be upgraded to 5 million pixels to match the XH2S, because the X-Pro will be a flagship camera, a range topper. So it's going to have the better viewfinder. It'll have, obviously, the new autofocus updates. But again, what sensor would you want in it? Would you want the 40 megapixel sensor, which when you're using a prime lens on it, gives you the ability to crop into the image? Or would you want the 26 megapixel sensor, which has got a faster readout, is better for if you're doing maybe panning shots, which you might well do if you're doing street photography. But this could be an incredibly good travel camera, because obviously weatherproof, it'll be weather resistant, which is one thing that my S20 lacks. And I do hope they upgrade the battery, because I think the X-Pro used to use the old, the small square battery, and which the old XT30 had, and it was terrible battery life. So I really hope it gets the new battery the XT5 has and the XS20 has. So put it in the comments below what you might like to see in an X-Pro, whether you like an X-Pro style camera, whether you think Fuji are going the right direction with this. I'm certainly really excited to have an X-Pro. I would potentially consider saving up for it. It's a lot to save for, but I think it's just the kind of camera that you can just carry. And I suspect it'll have IBIS as well. Anyway, I'm going to have to cut this one fairly short. Just wanted to get a little video out to say I'm still here and still throwing videos together. And I've got 6 minutes recording time left on the memory card, because I've got other footage that I've had to fill it up with and I haven't had time to download. I'm busy working on another video, as I've alluded to, so please do keep an eye out for that. There's going to be a couple of videos released. All I can say is it's a product review, but I can't say what it is yet. But I'm excited to sort of show you, because it's the first proper product review video I've done, and all will be revealed in up-and-coming videos. So, if in that case, please remember to like and subscribe to the video if you've got value and you want to get a notification about any up-and-coming videos. and I will see you all later, folks. Bye. Oh, and thank you for 1,000 subscribers once more. Bye.